When my new boss looked me straight in the eye, in front of the entire conference room, and uttered those two cold words, completely pointless, I knew this moment would change everything. Not because I felt insulted, but because I had just decided to make him pay. He thought I would give up, but I had chosen a revenge he'd never see coming. I would turn the idea he'd just dismissed into the weapon that would destroy his career, and it would start right now. My name is Emily Ward, and for 8 years, I'd poured my soul into Northline Dynamics. At 36, I wasn't just another team lead in product design, I was the one they called when projects went sideways, the one who understood what users needed before they knew it themselves. My cubicle walls were covered with thank you notes from clients, screenshots of interfaces I'd rescued from disaster, and a small collection of industry awards that I'd never bothered to take home. The old Northline had been different. We'd argue passionately about pixels and user flows, stay late not because we had to, but because we cared, and celebrate each other's wins like they were our own. My former boss, Marcus, had this way of making everyone feel heard. Even when he disagreed with you, he'd lean back in his chair, tap his pen against his lips, and say, "Walk me through your thinking." Those days felt like a lifetime ago now. Everything changed when Marcus got promoted to the European division. The executive team, in their infinite wisdom, decided we needed fresh blood, someone who could shake things up and bring startup energy to our established workflows. Enter Tyler Grant, a 38-year-old self-proclaimed visionary whose previous startup had burned through $12 million in venture capital before collapsing spectacularly. But somehow, he'd spun that failure into expertise, charming the hiring committee with buzzwords about disruption and paradigm shifts. From day one, Tyler made it clear that the old ways were dead. He canceled our morning stand-ups, calling them creativity killers. He restructured teams based on some management theory he'd half-read on a flight from San Francisco. Worst of all, he had this habit of dismissing ideas before hearing them out, especially if they came from anyone who'd been at the company longer than 6 months. "Legacy thinking," he'd say with that practiced smile that never reached his eyes. The design team bore the brunt of his reorganization. My colleague Sarah, who'd spent 3 years perfecting our mobile experience, was reassigned to exploratory projects, which meant she spent her days creating mock-ups that Tyler would glance at and trash. James, our best UX researcher, quit after Tyler told him that real innovators don't need to ask users what they want. One by one, the people who'd built Northline's reputation were being pushed aside for Tyler's hand-picked favorites, young kids fresh from boot camps who nodded enthusiastically at his every word and had never shipped a product that actual humans had to use. I'd managed to fly under Tyler's radar for the first 2 months. My work spoke for itself. Our enterprise clients loved the interfaces I designed, and my solutions consistently reduced training time and support tickets. I had data, testimonials, and a track record that even Tyler couldn't ignore, or so I thought. The truth was, I'd been working on something special for 6 months, even before Tyler arrived. I'd been quietly revolutionizing our main dashboard interface. I'd conducted dozens of user interviews on my own time, analyzed heat maps until my eyes burned, and tested 17 different iterations with actual users. The result was elegant, a design that would cut new user onboarding time by 45% while making power users even more efficient. It was the kind of improvement that could save our enterprise clients millions in training costs. I'd been waiting for the right moment to present it. That moment, I'd foolishly believed, had arrived at our Thursday product review meeting. Tyler had been talking about the need for breakthrough innovation, and I'd thought, this is it. This is exactly what he's been asking for. How wrong I was. But I wouldn't realize just how wrong until I was standing in that conference room, laptop connected to the projector, watching Tyler's face shift from disinterest to disdain as I began walking through my months of research. The room was full 12 people from various departments, including 2 VPs who'd flown in from Chicago. And that's when it happened. The moment that would change everything. I was halfway through explaining the user research methodology when Tyler raised his hand not to ask a question, but in that dismissive gesture you'd use to stop a child from rambling. The presentation remote felt heavy in my hand as I paused, watching him lean back in his chair with theatrical exasperation. "Emily," he said, drawing out my name like he was talking to someone particularly slow. How long have you been working on this? 6 months of research and iteration, I replied, keeping my voice steady. The data shows. 6 months, he laughed, actually laughed, looking around the room to make sure everyone was witnessing this moment. 6 months on a dashboard that nobody asked for. This is exactly the kind of legacy thinking that's holding us back. My throat felt tight, but I pressed on. Our enterprise clients have specifically requested. Our enterprise clients, he interrupted, standing now for maximum effect. Don't know what they want until we show them. And this, he gestured at the screen showing my carefully crafted interface. This is pointless. Completely pointless. The word hung in the air like a slap. Pointless. 6 months of interviews, testing, refinement pointless. The room was silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning. I could feel 12 pairs of eyes on me, some sympathetic, others just grateful they weren't in my position. Tyler's favorites were smirking, already composing the Slack messages they'd send the moment this meeting ended. It's just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, Tyler continued, warming to his theme. We need revolution, not evolution. We need to think bigger, be bolder. This incremental nonsense is why Northline is losing market share. That was a lie, and everyone knew it. We weren't losing market share, at least not yet. But nobody was going to contradict Tyler Grant in his moment of triumph. He was establishing dominance, making an example of me. I felt my face burning, but I refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. Instead, I did something that would later prove to be the smartest move of my career. I smiled. Not a fake smile, not a bitter smile, but a genuine, almost serene smile that seemed to unsettle him for just a moment. You're absolutely right, I said, closing my laptop with a soft click. I apologize for wasting everyone's time. Tyler blinked, clearly not expecting this response. He'd been ready for an argument, for tears, for any reaction that would let him play the reasonable leader dealing with a difficult employee. My calm acceptance threw him off script. Well, he said, recovering quickly, I'm glad you see it that way. Moving forward, I want you to focus on something more practical. Update the style guide for the help documentation. That's the kind of foundational work we need right now. Help documentation. He was assigning me work that an intern could do. The VPs from Chicago exchanged glances. Even they knew this was insulting. But I just nodded, gathered my things, and walked back to my seat with my head high. Now, Tyler said, his energy restored. Let me show you what real innovation looks like. He pulled up a presentation from Bradley, his golden boy who'd been at the company all of 3 months. It was a concept for a revolutionary dashboard that looked like it had been assembled from free UI kits. No user research, no testing, just flashy animations and trendy gradients that would be dated within a year. I sat there, taking notes like an attentive student, while Tyler gushed over Bradley's vision. The bitter taste in my mouth had nothing to do with the coffee I was drinking. When Bradley stumbled over a question about accessibility compliance, something I could have answered in my sleep, Tyler jumped in to defend him. We'll figure out those details later. What matters is the big picture thinking. The meeting dragged on for another hour. Tyler assigned Bradley to lead the dashboard redesign project, my project, built on my research, addressing problems I'd identified. He'd have a team of 4 and a budget that dwarfed anything I'd ever been given. The VPs looked skeptical but said nothing. They'd learned, like the rest of us, that contradicting Tyler in public was career suicide. As people filed out, I heard fragments of conversation. Harsh, someone whispered. That was brutal, said another, but nobody said it to me directly. I was radioactive now, marked as someone who'd challenged Tyler and lost. Sarah stopped by my desk later, speaking quietly. That was bullshit. Emily, everyone knows it. Doesn't matter what everyone knows, I replied, already opening the style guide that I'd been assigned to update. What matters is what happens next. She gave me a puzzled look, but I just smiled that same serene smile. In my mind, I was already 3 moves ahead. Tyler thought he'd won, thought he'd put me in my place. He had no idea that he'd just started a game he couldn't possibly win. That night, I stayed late, but not to work on the style guide. I was downloading every file, every research document, every iteration of my dashboard design. Not company property, all of this was work I'd done on my own time, with my own resources, based on relationships I'd built over years. Tyler had called it pointless. Soon, I'd show him just how costly that word would be. The morning after my public humiliation, I arrived at the office at 7:30 sharp, my usual time. Tyler wouldn't roll in until 9:30, at the earliest he liked to make an entrance. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and began my performance. When Tyler finally strutted past my cubicle, I was deep in the mindless task he'd assigned me, updating color codes in a style guide nobody used. "Good to see you taking direction. Emily," he said, that smug satisfaction dripping from every word. "I knew you'd come around." I looked up, gave him my best defeated smile, and nodded. "You were right. I was overthinking things. Simple is better." The words tasted like acid, but his pleased expression made it worth it. He believed he'd broken me. Perfect. For the next 3 weeks, I became Tyler's model employee. I attended his pointless innovation sessions, where his favorites pitched recycled ideas from design blogs. I nodded thoughtfully when he explained his revolutionary approach to user experience, which was essentially copying whatever Apple did 3 years ago. I even volunteered for the grunt work, updating documentation, organizing asset libraries, tasks so far beneath my experience level that my colleagues shot me confused looks. But every evening, after Tyler left for his 5:45 CrossFit class, I stayed behind. Not at my company workstation, I wasn't stupid. I'd bring my personal laptop to the cafeteria, connect to my phone's hotspot, and work on my real project. Every piece of research, every design iteration, every line of documentation for my dashboard redesign was carefully transferred to my personal cloud storage. I made sure everything was time-stamped from before my employment at Northline, or created entirely on personal time with personal resources. 8 years in tech had taught me about intellectual property, and I wasn't about to give Tyler any ammunition. The masterstroke came when I remembered Samantha Reyes. We'd met at a design conference 3 years ago, back when she was creative director at Vertex Systems, Northline's biggest competitor. We'd stayed in touch, occasionally grabbing coffee when she was in town. She'd tried to poach me twice, but I'd been loyal to Northline. That loyalty had died in a conference room 3 weeks ago. I messaged her on LinkedIn from my personal account. "Hey Sam, remember that dashboard concept we discussed at DesignCon? I finally had time to fully develop it. Would love to get your thoughts over coffee." Her response came within an hour. "Emily, absolutely. How's Thursday at 2? The usual place." Thursday couldn't come fast enough. I told Tyler I had a dentist appointment. He barely looked up from his phone to wave me away. The coffee shop was bustling, perfect for a conversation that needed to stay private. Samantha arrived 5 minutes early, same as always. Her silver hair now cut in a sharp bob that made her look even more formidable than I remembered. "Emily Ward," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Still at Northline, I heard you got a new boss." "Tyler Grant," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "He has interesting ideas about design." She laughed, a knowing sound. "I've heard. His reputation precedes him. Burned through Innovate Labs funding in 18 months, right? And somehow failed upward into your organization." She leaned forward. "So, this dashboard concept." I pulled out my personal laptop, angled it so only she could see the screen, and walked her through everything. The research, the iterations, the test results. Her expression shifted from polite interest to genuine excitement as I showed her the 45% reduction in onboarding time, the heat maps showing improved user flow, the testimonials from beta testers I'd worked with independently. "This is exactly what we've been looking for," she said quietly. "Our enterprise clients have been screaming about dashboard complexity. This would give us a massive competitive advantage." She paused, studying me. "But why show me? This could transform Northline's entire platform." I closed my laptop slowly. Tyler thinks it's pointless. His word, not mine, publicly declared it worthless in front of the entire product team. Samantha's eyes sharpened. "His loss? Emily, I'm going to be direct. We want you at Vertex. We've wanted you for years. But with this," she tapped my laptop, "I can get you a senior principal position, 25% salary increase, full creative autonomy, and a research budget that would make your head spin. Plus, you'd report directly to me, not some startup washout with delusions of grandeur. There's one thing, I said carefully. Brightspan Logistics. They're your target client, aren't they? She nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. They're everyone's target, 20% of Northline's revenue, if our intelligence is correct. I have a contact there, their IT director. We've worked together for 4 years, and he's frustrated with the recent direction of Northline's product development. I let that hang in the air between us. Samantha sat back, a slow smile spreading across her face. Emily Ward, you're full of surprises. When can you start? Bradley's dashboard project was falling apart, and everyone could see it except Tyler. Week after week, I watched from my corner of the office as the Golden Boy struggled with basic implementation challenges that any experienced designer could have predicted. The animations that had looked so impressive in his mock-ups were causing performance issues. The intuitive navigation he'd promised was confusing even to internal testers. But Tyler kept pushing forward, burning through budget and resources like they were infinite. Meanwhile, I had a different kind of meeting to attend. Robert Fitzgerald, IT, director at Brightspan Logistics, had agreed to meet me for lunch at a discreet restaurant downtown. I'd known Robert for 4 years. We'd worked through 3 major deployments together, and he trusted my judgment implicitly. Emily, I'll be honest, he said, cutting into his salmon. The latest update from Northline is a disaster. My team is fielding complaints hourly. Training costs are through the roof. If this is the new direction, we need to reconsider our partnership. I took a sip of water, choosing my words carefully. What if I told you there was a better solution, one that could cut your training time nearly in half? His eyes sharpened. I'd say Tyler shot it down 3 weeks ago in front of a room full of people. News traveled fast in our industry. He did, but that doesn't mean the solution doesn't exist. I pulled out my personal tablet and showed him the demo I'd been perfecting. Not on Northline servers, this was hosted on my own private environment. Robert went quiet as he navigated through the interface, his expression shifting from skepticism to interest to something approaching excitement. This is exactly what we need, he said finally. Clean, intuitive, scalable. My team could roll this out with minimal friction. He paused, studying me. But you're still at Northline. For now, I said carefully. But solutions like this need the right environment to flourish, the right partnership between vendor and client. Robert sat back, understanding dawning in his eyes. Vertex Systems has been courting us aggressively. They're hungry for a flagship enterprise client. They're also known for listening to their clients' needs, I added, and implementing solutions that actually work. If Vertex could deliver this interface, with you leading the implementation. He let the sentence hang, but we both knew what he meant. A contract worth millions, moving from Northline to their biggest competitor. Hypothetically speaking, Robert said slowly, if someone were to present this solution to our board, with a commitment from Vertex for immediate implementation, the decision would be straightforward. We have a quarterly review coming up in 6 weeks. 6 weeks. The timeline was perfect. That evening, I found an email waiting in my personal inbox, not from Samantha, but from David Martinez, one of Tyler's rising stars, who'd been assigned to Bradley's dashboard team. Emily, I know this is unorthodox, but I need help. This project is imploding. Bradley has no idea what he's doing, and Tyler won't listen to anyone who suggests changes. I've been looking at the research you presented, the real research, and it addresses every problem we're facing. Is there any way you could unofficially consult? I'll take all the credit, blame. I just need this project not to fail. I stared at the email for a long moment. David was a good kid, talented but naive. He didn't deserve to go down with Bradley's sinking ship, but helping him would mean helping Tyler, and that wasn't part of my plan. I wrote back carefully, David, I appreciate you reaching out, but Tyler was clear about my role. I'm focused on the style guide now. I'd suggest documenting all the issues you're encountering, with specific metrics about performance degradation and user complaints. Make sure that documentation has your name on it and is dated. You'll want a clear record that you identified these problems early. Best of luck. He'd understand later why that documentation would be so important. The next day, Whispers started circulating that Brightspan was unhappy. Their support tickets had tripled since the last update. Their training department was overwhelmed. During a product sync meeting that I wasn't important enough to attend anymore, Robert had apparently been quite vocal about his concerns. Tyler's response, according to Sarah, who was in the room, was to blame the client. "They're resistant to change," he'd said. "They need to evolve their thinking." You could hear the VP's sharp intake of breath, Sarah told me later. You don't tell a client worth 20% of revenue that they need to evolve. That afternoon, I submitted my formal offer letter from Vertex to HR, with a start date 4 weeks out. Professional courtesy required 2 weeks' notice, but I was using my accumulated vacation time to extend it, ensuring a smooth transition, the same smooth transition Tyler would never give me. I also sent a follow-up message to Robert. Vertex has confirmed they can deliver the solution we discussed. Implementation team would be ready to begin immediately upon contract signing. The quarterly review timeline is feasible. His response was brief but loaded with meaning. Good to know. Our board appreciates vendors who deliver on their promises. The seeds were planted. Bradley's project was hemorrhaging money and credibility. Brightspan was shopping for alternatives, and I was about to hand Vertex the exact solution that Tyler had called pointless. In my desk drawer, I kept a printed copy of Tyler's words from the meeting notes someone had foolishly transcribed. This is pointless. Completely pointless. Soon, he'd learn the cost of those 2 words. The Brightspan boardroom was exactly as I'd imagined it, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, dark wood table polished to a mirror shine, and 8 executives who controlled a technology budget worth more than some small country's GDP. Robert had arranged for me to present during their vendor evaluation session, technically as an independent consultant since I was still employed at Northline for another 2 weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert began, I've asked Emily Ward to demonstrate a solution that addresses our current challenges with enterprise dashboard management. Emily has worked with Brightspan for 4 years and understands our needs better than any vendor representative we've encountered. I stood, connecting my laptop to their system with practiced ease. Thank you. Robert, what I'm about to show you is a fully functional interface that reduces training time by 45%, while increasing user productivity by 30%. These aren't projections, these are tested metrics. For the next 30 minutes, I walked them through everything. The clean interface that adapted to user roles, the intelligent shortcuts that learned from user behavior, the accessibility features that exceeded federal compliance requirements by 200%. Their CFO, notorious for his skepticism, actually leaned forward when I showed the cost savings projections. This is impressive, the CEO said finally, but can Northline deliver this? Robert cleared his throat. Actually, Northline has explicitly rejected this approach. Their current direction is the Bradley dashboard you've been experiencing for the past month. The room got cold. The CFO pulled up something on his tablet, probably the support ticket statistics that had been climbing like a hockey stick. Then who can deliver this? The CEO asked. Vertex Systems has committed to full implementation within 6 weeks, I said, with me leading the deployment team. The implications hung in the air. I was jumping ship, and I was offering to take them with me. You're leaving Northline, the CFO asked. My last day is in 2 weeks. Vertex has offered me full creative autonomy and the resources to implement this solution properly. The CEO looked around the table, reading the room. Robert, what's your recommendation? We've been partners with Northline for 6 years, Robert said carefully. But partnerships require mutual respect and aligned vision. The recent updates have caused operational disruptions that cost us approximately $300,000 in lost productivity last quarter alone. This solution, he gestured at my screen, addresses every pain point we've identified. And Vertex can guarantee implementation, the CEO pressed. I pulled out a letter on Vertex letterhead, signed by Samantha Reyes and their CEO. 6-week implementation, dedicated support team, and a performance guarantee. If the metrics don't match what I've shown you, the first year's licensing is free. That got their attention. Vertex was putting serious skin in the game. The CFO was doing rapid calculations. The switching costs. Offset by productivity gains within 4 months, I replied. I've prepared a detailed migration plan that ensures zero downtime during transition. They asked me to step out while they discussed. I sat in the waiting area for 23 minutes, watching the city below and thinking about Tyler's smug face when he'd called my work pointless. When Robert opened the door, he was trying to suppress a smile. "Unanimous decision," he said. "We're moving to Vertex, contingent on your solution being delivered as promised. We'll be notifying Northline at the end of the week." I shook hands with each board member, professional and composed. But inside I was electric. 20% of Northline's revenue, about to walk out the door, and the beautiful irony Tyler had made it possible by publicly humiliating me, by being so arrogant that he'd insulted the client's intelligence, by choosing flash over function. That evening, I got a text from David Martinez. Bradley's demo crashed during the investor presentation. Tyler blamed the dev team. 3 people gave notice today. The exodus was beginning even sooner than I'd expected. Tyler's toxic leadership was accelerating Northline's decline, but the killing blow would come from Brightspan's departure. I spent my remaining days at Northline methodically documenting my projects, creating handover notes that were thorough but useless. Everything important was already at Vertex. Tyler barely acknowledged my presence, too busy dealing with the Bradley dashboard crisis to care about the style guide I'd supposedly been working on. My last Friday arrived with little fanfare. HR conducted a perfunctory exit interview where I gave neutral professional responses. Tyler didn't even bother to attend my goodbye gathering, a sad affair with grocery store cookies and warm soda that Sarah had hastily organized. "You know something," Sarah said quietly as we stood by the window. "You've been too calm about all this." I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge is success elsewhere. "Bullshit," she whispered. "You've got something planned." "I've got a new job," I replied innocently. "That's all." But Sarah knew me better than that. "When whatever you're planning happens, I want to be the first to know." "You'll know," I promised. "Everyone will know." As I walked out of Northline's building for the last time, carrying a single box of personal items, Tyler was in another crisis meeting about the Bradley dashboard. He'd dismissed me without a thought, certain I was beaten, irrelevant, pointless. In 6 weeks, when Brightspan's departure became public and Vertex announced their revolutionary new dashboard solution, he'd understand. Every client would understand. The entire industry would understand. The woman he'd humiliated hadn't just left. She'd taken his biggest client with her, and this was just the beginning. My first day at Vertex Systems felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. Samantha had assembled a team of 5 brilliant developers who actually listened when I explained the user research. We had a war room dedicated solely to the Brightspan implementation, with walls covered in workflows and user journey maps. Everything Northline had denied me, Vertex provided without question. "Tyler has no idea. Does he?" Samantha asked during our morning strategy session, 6 weeks after I'd left Northline. "He's about to," I replied, pulling up the latest build. "Brightspan's announcement goes out tomorrow." We'd worked 18-hour days, but the dashboard was perfect. Not just functional, genuinely revolutionary. The machine learning components anticipated user needs. The interface was so intuitive that training became almost unnecessary, and the performance metrics exceeded even my ambitious projections. That evening, as I was reviewing the final deployment checklist, my phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "Emergency all-hands meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Tyler looks like he's seen a ghost." The news had leaked. I didn't have to wait long for the public confirmation. At exactly 8 a.m. the next morning, Brightspan issued a press release. Brightspan Logistics partners with Vertex Systems for next-generation dashboard technology. The release quoted their CEO praising innovative solutions that actually listen to client needs, and specifically mentioned the 45% reduction in training time. Within an hour, TechCrunch picked up the story. Major enterprise client dumps Northline Dynamics for competitor. The article was brutal, citing sources familiar with the matter, who described Northline's recent products as style over substance and disconnected from user needs. My phone exploded with messages, former colleagues, industry contacts, even people I'd barely spoken to at Northline. But the one that made me smile was from David Martinez. "Holy shit, Emily, you actually did it." By noon, the story had evolved. Someone definitely not me. Though I had my suspicions about Robert had leaked to a prominent industry blogger that the Vertex solution was built on designs that Northline had rejected. The blogger, who had a particular hatred for Tyler after he'd publicly criticized her at a conference, ran with it gleefully. Northline's Tyler Grant rejected dashboard design that just won Vertex Systems a multi-million-dollar contract, read the headline. The article included a devastating detail. Unnamed sources confirmed that Grant had called the design pointless in front of his entire product team. But the real carnage was just beginning. At 2:15 p.m., I was in a client presentation when Samantha pulled me aside. You need to see this. 3 more Northline clients had reached out to Vertex requesting demos. Big clients, the kind whose logos you put on your homepage. They'd all specifically asked to see the Brightspan solution. It's a feeding frenzy, Samantha said, barely containing her excitement. 20 years I've been trying to crack Northline's client base, and you've done it in 6 weeks. That evening, the Vertex marketing team launched our campaign. We'd prepared it weeks in advance, waiting for this moment. The centerpiece was a case study video featuring Robert Fitzgerald himself, professionally shot in Brightspan's offices. We needed a partner who understood that innovation means solving real problems, not just creating flashy demos, Robert said to the camera. Vertex Systems, led by Emily Ward's brilliant design team, delivered exactly that. My name, my team, my design, everything Tyler had tried to bury was now being broadcast across the industry. The video went viral in enterprise tech circles. LinkedIn was flooded with reactions. Industry analysts started reaching out for comments. The contrast was impossible to ignore while Northline was pushing Bradley's failed dashboard that had actually increased support tickets. Vertex was delivering measurable, dramatic improvements. By Thursday, the Northline board had called an emergency meeting. Sarah, ever my loyal spy, sent updates throughout the day. Tyler's been in the boardroom for 3 hours. HR is here now, legal too. Bradley just came out crying. Security is in Tyler's office. The final message came at 6:45 p.m. Tyler's been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Word is they're reviewing every project decision he's made. But the universe wasn't done with Tyler Grant yet. Friday morning brought the killing blow. The Wall Street Journal ran a piece on the broader implications of the Brightspan move. The article mentioned that Northline's stock had dropped 12% in 2 days. Analysts were questioning the company's product strategy and leadership decisions. One particularly damning quote from an unnamed board member: "We trusted someone who confused arrogance with vision. It's a mistake we won't repeat." The industry newsletter that everyone read with their morning coffee included a brutal editorial: Tyler Grant's Northline disaster, a case study in how not to lead product development. My phone rang, unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Northline's headquarters. Emily, the voice was familiar. Marcus, my old boss, calling from his new position in Europe. I just wanted to say, well played. Tyler's finished. The board's already reached out to me about coming back to clean up his mess. I didn't do anything, I said innocently. I just took a better offer. Marcus laughed. Right, and Brightspan just happened to jump ship at the exact moment you had a competing product ready. Emily, I trained you better than to leave fingerprints, but I know your work when I see it. After we hung up, I stood in my new office, yes, office, not cubicle, and looked out at the city. Tyler had thought he was crushing an annoyance, silencing a dissenting voice. Instead, he'd activated a competitor who knew every weakness in his strategy, every flaw in his character, every client relationship he'd damaged with his arrogance. The final irony came that afternoon. Vertex's CEO called me into his office to show me a resume that had just been submitted through their careers page. Tyler Grant, seeking a position as senior product manager, listing his Northline experience as successfully managing organizational transformation and product innovation. We laughed until we cried. The dominoes kept falling faster than even I had anticipated. Monday morning brought news that Morrison Global, Northline's second-largest client, had formally requested a contract review meeting. Their CTO had seen our Brightspan implementation demo at a conference over the weekend and immediately called an emergency session with his team. Sarah's texts were becoming a daily highlight. 2 more senior designers just quit. They're saying your name is legend here now. Then, Tyler's trying to get his administrative leave lifted. He's claiming he's being scapegoated. And my favorite, someone anonymously sent the entire company a screenshot of Tyler calling your design pointless with the WSJ article about Vertex's success. It can't figure out who did it. I knew exactly who did it, David Martinez, who'd quietly accepted a position at a startup after documenting months of Tyler's disastrous decisions. His parting gift to Northline was making sure everyone knew exactly who was responsible for their current crisis. By Tuesday, the tech press had turned the situation into a feeding frenzy. The pointless design that wasn't how arrogance cost Northline millions became the most shared article on industry Twitter. Someone had even created a meme of Tyler's LinkedIn profile photo with the caption, "This is pointless," that was spreading like wildfire. Wednesday brought the news I'd been waiting for. Marcus called me directly. The board just terminated Tyler's employment. Officially, it's a mutual separation, but security escorted him out an hour ago. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, managing to keep my voice neutral. "No, you're not," Marcus laughed. "And you shouldn't be. He destroyed in 3 months what took years to build. Emily, I need you to know I'm coming back as